Good morning, students. Today we will learn the properties of angles formed by parallel lines and the transversal. Now the first property is property of corresponding angles. Yesterday you have studied what are pair of corresponding angles. Now according to this property, a pair of corresponding angles formed by two parallel lines and the transversal are congruent. Okay. So in this figure here, and the parallel lines are line PQ parallel to line RS and the line AB is the transversal. So according to the property, what does the property says? Pair of corresponding angles formed by two parallel lines and its transversal will be congruent. Okay. Now, as we have studied before, four pair of corresponding angles are formed in this figure. Okay. Let us understand these four pair of corresponding angles. Now, if I take this, I have to mark it as M and this point of intersection as N. You can mark anything, any alphabet. Suppose I take the first angle, angle A and P. So I can write the first pair, angle A and P is congruent to the corresponding angle. What is the corresponding angle? Angle NNR is congruent to angle NNR. Okay. So according to the property, pair of corresponding angles are congruent. What does it mean? If the measure of angle is 110 degrees, the measure of this angle will be also 110 degrees. If it is 130 degrees, it will be 130 degrees. Now, the next pair, the second one. Suppose I take this angle, angle A and Q is congruent to which angle? Corresponding angles are on the same side of the line, same side of the transversal. So A and Q is congruent to angle MNS. So A and Q is congruent to angle MNS. Got it? The third one, angle, take this pair now, PMN, okay, is corresponding to this angle, angle RNB. So, PMN is congruent to angle RNB. The next one, here, okay, take this angle QMN is congruent to angle SNP. So I will write the fourth one, angle QMN is congruent to angle SNP. Got it? That means pair of corresponding angles are congruent. Property of alternate angles. According to this property, pair of alternate angles formed by two parallel lines and their transversal are congruent. Let us see the diagram. In this, L and line LN is parallel to line RS and line NT is the transversal, and it is intersecting the lines alternate exterior angles. Now alternate interior angles. Now interior angles are inside the two parallel lines. So let us consider this angle LPQ. Okay. So the first pair we have taken angle LPQ will be congruent to angle. Alternate interior angles are opposite side of the transversal. So it will be angle PQS. What it? Angle PQS. Second pair of alternate interior angle. If I take this angle NPQ is alternate angle to this angle, that is angle PQR. So here the second pair we can write angle NPQ is congruent to angle PQR. Okay, these are alternate interior angles. Now, alternate exterior angles. The first one. Here, exterior angles are outside the given two lines, parallel lines. Now, suppose I consider the first alternate exterior angle, angle LPN. It is alternate and its pair is angle SQT. Okay? Got it? Angle LPN is congruent to angle SQT. Why they are alternate angles? Because they are opposite to the transversal and the direction of these angles are also opposite. Like LPN is directing towards left hand side, whereas SQT is directing towards right hand side of the transversal. Second pair we will take the remaining one, angle NPM, angle NPM is congruent to RQT. So these are pair of alternate exterior angles. If LPQ is 130 degree, then angle PQS will be also 130 degree. That here, if LPN is 50 degree, then angle SQT will be also 50 degree, because pair of alternate angles are congruent. Property of interior angles. The third property of interior angles. For this, we will draw two parallel lines and the transversal. Suppose the parallel line is A, B, C, D, and P, Q is the transversal, intersecting the parallel lines at point N and N. Now, according to the property of interior angles, pair of interior angles formed by two parallel lines and the transversal is supplementary. I repeat, according to the property of interior angles, a pair of interior angles plus angle MNC is equals to 180 degrees. That is supplementary angle. Second pair. Suppose I take angle BNN, then angle MNC. Okay, interior angles. Angle BNN plus angle MNC. Here it is B. M and D is 180 degree. So, two parallel lines AB and CD are parallel. PQ is the